Hi, and welcome. My name is Michelle, a longtime Montessori teacher turned parent coach, supporting parents to break cycles of yelling, frustration, and guilt to become more calm and create unshakable bonds with their children, no matter what. I work with parents globally, and a common thread I see is the balance of work and life and how the relationship skills translate from workplace to home. Why can you stay calm at work but lose it with your kids? Why does it feel like your leadership skills go out the window as soon as you get home? Don't worry, you're not alone. Maybe you work in the public to serve and you stay regulated under extreme stress and pressure, but then you get home and somehow your 3-year-old or your teenager seems to push every button you have. I know. I would like to discuss what's actually going on for your child's developing brain and how to bring your best leadership self home, day in and day out, and not fall into the trap of command and control. You see, I was a Montessori teacher for about 6 years before I became a mom, and I would lead and motivate children of multi levels in my classroom. And then I would get home, and for probably 20 minutes into me being home, my 3-year-old had me yelling, frustrated, out of control. Well, it turns out it was actually me, not him. I couldn't figure out how to take the skills at work, the leadership skills that I had, and bring them home. I had a block, and it caused me to dive deeper. Kids, brain science, parenting created this complete shift that I didn't even know I needed. And that's what I'm here to share with you. 19 years later, I work with parents and families all over the world to recognize what's getting in the way of being that peaceful leader at home. So, what is getting in the way? Many of us have things that are getting in the way of being that peaceful leader at home, even if though we're a peaceful leader at work. And that's what I'm going to dive into. There are two reasons, and I'd like to go down each path, but first we need to understand, and this is what makes leadership at home different from the workplace. So I need to share two important pieces of information with you. The first is that we are born, with all of our organs fully developed, unless there is a congenital defect, right? We're born with four chambers in our heart. We have the lobes in our lungs. We're born with 100% of our skin, the skin being the biggest organ of our body. Um, we're born with our organs fully developed and they just expand as we age. The exception to this rule, which is really important for parents to understand, is the brain. The brain develops, it not only, grows and expands like the other organs, but it develops really from conception until about the age of 25. And so you know this, right? When you brought your newborn home, they really just can't do much for themselves. And to make it even more complicated, the brain actually develops from the bottom back to the top front. And this thing sitting right here up front is called the prefrontal cortex. It's the last to develop. So your prefrontal is where you have all of your executive functioning skills. You're able to connect the dots, you're able to scan the universe, you're able to multitask, you're paying attention to more than one thing, you're anticipating and planning. And, we actually don't even tap into the prefrontal until around the age of 7. And so what happens, and many parents are guilty of this, they're at work for 8, 10, 12 hours dealing with other adults, mostly, emotionally intelligent, fully developed brain people, having a fully developed brain. And then they come home and they want to treat their son or their daughter like their work peer, or they have the same expectations. So let's do the math here. I have a 19-year-old who is 6 years away from having a fully developed brain, and he demonstrates it. His brain is 76% fully developed, even though he's 6'2", towers over me, looks like a man, his brain is still developing. So that's number one. And number two is the auditory system of a child. That is not fully developed until the age of 15. So the auditory system, as an example, I'm a single task. I'm going to kind of paint a scenario here. My child is 7 years old. They're sitting down, they're reading a book, single task oriented child, right? She's reading the book that she really enjoys while having some toast for breakfast, really immersed in what she's doing. And that's the thing, because kids are single task oriented, and when they are all in. And so there you are off in the distance, maybe even in the other room, and you're saying, honey, put your dish in the dishwasher as soon as you're done. And you're assuming she's tuned in, she's listening, she's digesting, she's processing, she's putting all in her brain to create this simple task that's going to motivate her to get up and put the dish in the dishwasher. But you really need a lot of prefrontal cortex and a lot of auditory development to accomplish that on the first time. And often we train our kids not to listen by responding and repeating ourselves over and over with the tone and the volume escalating. So it might start off like this. Hey, sweetheart, put your dish away. And then the second time kind of rolls around. Hey, come on, put your dish away. And then by the third time, you're like, I don't want to yell. I'm not going to say it again. Just put your dish away now. And what's happening in her 7-year-old brain and her 28% fully developed along the way brain, she's enjoying her book. She has trained herself that when the volume, the tone reach this level, that's when I look up, I digest what, she wants me to do and I do it. So it's not that our kids, have figured out how to push our buttons and are willingly like just jamming all of them at the same time like they do in an elevator. You know, you really need a lot of motive in order to get up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm just going to push my parents' button today. I'm going to disrespect. I'm just going to make it my mission and my goal to give her a hard time and disrespect for her. I mean, you really need a lot of prefrontal cortex to have motive, right? And that's why in the US, a 17-year-old, if they commit a crime, they really have to decide if they're going to try them as an adult or as a child. What they're looking for there is motive. And kids are not born with motive. It develops with their prefrontal. And they also typically don't understand that as the tone increases, the frustration will also increase in us because they don't really have the skills to read the room. So there typically are two parenting styles that I see. There's a loud, rigid, dominant, power over style, parenting style. And then there's the zero authority, permissiveness, power under type of parenting. And it doesn't seem like either one really gets the job done. So you might be wondering, where's the middle road in parenting? And this is what I teach in my program and what I call parenting with. I'm not gentle parenting, no consequences parenting. Kids need rules, they need systems in place. I can remember when I had my classroom of multi-level students, and they would enter the classroom, put their backpacks away in their cubbies, grab their books, sit down on the carpet, and start silent reading until it was time to take attendance. This was our routine pretty much every day. And something that teachers are really good about is having pattern interrupters, especially for transitions. I had many different types of pattern interrupters. So I didn't just like start my day by telling my 31 students to stop reading, put their books away, and get out their work, because some would listen, some wouldn't, and it would just be chaotic. But instead, I might do something else to get their attention. I might say 1, 2, 3, and some kids might say, eyes on me. And then I would do it again because maybe only like 5 kids did it the first time. 1, 2, 3. And then maybe like 10 would actually close their books, look up 10 more, and say, eyes on me. Then the last time I would say 1, 2, 3. And now the entire class has closed their book. They've looked up and they're saying, eyes on me. Then I could begin the transition of putting books away a few at a time as I was taking roll and starting the transition. So I would get pretty good compliance because I had done a pattern interrupter before making the request and I've connected with them. So back to the dish scenario. What if you were to walk into the kitchen? Again, your daughter is 7 years old, and slow and low, you go up to her, you say her name, you have her look up at you, make that eye contact. When you're finished, please put the dish in the dishwasher. Yes? And then she repeats, yes. Fast forward, now she's 9 or maybe even 10. You've repeated this process in the same way, but you might come into the kitchen and instead transition to say, hey, when we're done with breakfast, what do we do? And she'll say, oh, we put the dish in the dishwasher. Great job, honey. Well done. And now she's 12, 13, and you see her putting the dish on her own, and you praise, oh my gosh, thank you for pitching in. You're really good at cleaning up after yourself. I love that you put your dishes in the dishwasher. Do you see how we're making progress? This is active parenting. When working with my clients, parents will often, bring a question to me. And I like to reframe that question and ask them to imagine that their child, their son or their daughter, was actually one of their employees. Yes, you told her to put the dish in the dishwasher. You wouldn't keep telling your employee over and over and over and then just at some point yell at them, right? No, that wouldn't go well. But you might call him or her into a one-on-one meeting, as an employee and then say as an employer and say to her, I don't understand. I'm asking you to produce this report every Monday at 8 a.m., and by noon I've reached out to you 4 times. Like, what's happening? Right? You would get curious. You wouldn't just yell at them. So instead of just focusing on the behavior on top and just snorkeling along, we're actually going to dive down, scuba dive down, and get curious to the feelings and needs. And so you might do this in a business meeting, am I not being clear? Do you forget? Do we need to set up a timer? Do you not understand how important this report is? You would come and work with your employee. But we don't always do this with our kids, right? We don't always get curious. We don't ask, "Hey, what's going on? You should be able to clean your dish and put it in the dishwasher. Do I need to put like a little reminder post-it note in the dining room table? Do I need to maybe ask you on your way back from brushing your teeth? Do you need, to maybe not read in the morning when you're having breakfast?" So I'm not suggesting that you bend on having her put the plate in the dishwasher, right? If that's an important value to you and your family that you want a teacher to pitch in and have that teamwork, bending the excuse would just be permissiveness. So what I am emphasizing is that you get curious about what's going on there. Like, what's the process like? How do we fix the process so it gets done? She might say to you, like, you know what, Mom, honestly, I don't actually hear you until you are really loud. And then it's like, okay, she's 7. I probably shouldn't be, standing in the bathroom getting ready and yelling across the house because she's not dialing in. I need to take 30 seconds and walk from the bathroom to her to make that clear request. Or I could put a little post-it note in her bathroom mirror that says, when you're done brushing, don't forget your dish to put the dish in the dishwasher. Make sense? So here's the truth. Our most important skill as parents is getting regulated when interacting with our kids versus being dysregulated. This is at the core of what I teach parents to do. You see, there's a right time to parent and there's a wrong time to parent. And I'd love to deeply help you learn what this means and support you with this. I invite you to simply just fill out the PDF questionnaire and email it to me at plparenting5@gmail.com and book a clarity call for me. It's completely free. Let's take your leadership skills at home to the next level. You deserve it, and your children most definitely deserve a steady, calm leader. Well, that's it for now. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.